This episode of UDSP is brought to you by Audible. For a free 30-day trial and to receive a free audiobook, just head on over to audible.com/Gamebreaker. What's up, everybody, and welcome to UDSP episode 31 for January 13th, 2013. You're watching Gamebreaker. I'm Gary. Getting coming up on today's show, Carbine hate the Stalker, apparently. Super mega double jump dodge, and shockingly, the devs still have more work to do. All that and more, but first, joining us as always, Mr. Vahan Siddiqui, how are you, sir?
Hello, yep, doing well. Looking forward to that Stalker stream whenever it does happen, but, you know, we'll get there. We'll get there. And joining us as always from Guild Number, Mr. Mark Taylor. How are you, sir?
What's going on?
Just chilling, getting ready for some UDSP. Let's do it. So yeah, as for the Stalker, didn't happen. Guess some Carbine peeps got sick. What is this getting sick? You can't get sick. Got live streams to do. There's no time for sick.
Yeah.
That's that excuse. For those who haven't seen it though, because they didn't do the live stream obviously, and people aren't in the beta. Somebody run down how the Stalker plays. Tell me a little bit about it and kind of what you think.
The Stalker is actually like quite fun, and it plays quite differently than the other classes just because of the way that the mechanic works. So suit power is constantly regenerating, like as you're fighting, as you're not fighting, just continuously it's coming up, and so it's by far the most bursty of all the classes. You know, when you start using your suit power, you're really constrained by that. And what it does is it actually makes it feel quite different than, say, the warrior, because okay, they're a good comparison point because they're both melee classes. But while the warrior actually really wants to stay on you the whole time to get that sustained damage, they have to keep hitting you to get their kinetic energy. Because it would decay if they're not actually hitting you. The Stalker actually just wants to like pop up in there and sort of do its burst thing, and then it's all right hanging out for a while, out of range or whatever. I mean, obviously you have like your no cost quick slash ability that you could use when you're waiting for your superpower to come back up, but in PvP or in a situation where like there's telegraphs that you need to dodge in PvE or whatever. The Stalker is actually pretty okay with just like backing off for a little bit and then coming in and doing its burst again, when it's ready and when it has its superpower built back up.
I mean, you'd say it's the rogue class, right? I mean, pretty much it's the roguey kind of stealth class, so they want you to get in, get out, and then get back in. So you want to get in, do some damage, get out, recharge, heal up, get back in.
Yep.
You guys like it? What do you think? What do you think of the gameplay, Taylor?
I think it's one of the most fun classes in the game. It's my second favorite class to like the engineer. And the reason is because you can spec yourself not only DPS and be, the sneaky, but you can also be a tank and still have all the benefit of, being stealth, right? So the thing is in PvP, on more than one occasion, I've gone up against a tank spec or, a dodge tank spec Stalker. So they caught me slipping, they snuck up, they started backstabbing me, and then when you try to burn them down or DPS them down, guess what? They're tank spec, so it's just not working. So then when you realize you're getting ready to get your ass handed to you, you try to run, or you try to run towards heals or run towards your teammates on the PvP, and then boom, you get snared, or you get one of the tank abilities where they leash you, right? And it becomes a bad day for you really kind of quick, and it's the one of the few classes, and I guess the warriors like this to a degree, but really they're one of the few classes that can be a tank, but it doesn't really feel like a tank when you're fighting one because they can still yet do so much damage, right?
So what's if you had to go up against one or the other at this point in time with the limited time you guys have played? Who would you rather go up against? Would you rather go up the DPS spec or the tank spec?
I'd rather go up against a DPS spec just because they're wearing they don't have as much damage mitigation. They can't dodge as much. So the point is you can actually hit them and it'll actually hurt. Whereas when you're going up against a Stalker that's tank spec, they're dodging everything you can do, and then they're still hitting you almost as much as a DPSer. So They are really, really a strong class. The only way that I have seen that you can successfully mitigate them is not really a one-on-one fight. It's really if you have a group with range, like their host, just like anybody else is with range. So then the normal thing is to to break contact, go back into stealth. The combat, jump out of combat, get into stealth. But in this game, it's really hard to do because there's so many range classes, and all they'll do is just sit there and put telegraphs everywhere and break you out of stealth, right? So you got to get down the road a little bit more before you come up with some tools to overcome that. So it can be challenging if you don't know what you have to do. You have to really look for wounded fish, shall we say, come out of stealth, burn them down, and then go back into stealth. If you try to do a toe-to-toe fight, you've got to get somebody off on their own, I guess, if that makes any sense. Because if help's coming, it's hard to get out of trouble.
Farhan, do you see Stalker tank specs really being a major focus early on in larger scale like PvP fights for people sort of directing group to burn them down quicker than anybody else?
Honestly, it's a little hard for me to say, especially because a lot of the Stalker tank abilities, obviously your support abilities you get a little bit later in the game, so, up to level 15 there isn't a lot in there for it. And I will say this, that a lot of the Stalker tank's tankiness actually comes from just being in his mitigation stance, right? I have the three stances for the Stalker. There is the balance stance, which is just like his normal stance. He has medium armor, which is like roughly like 25% mitigation or something like that. It ranges depending on how good your gear is, but it could be like 30. If you're in your DPS stance, then you have increased damage, obviously, and then you have much reduced mitigation, like 20% less mitigation. So you'd be taking a lot more damage. You're on par with light armor classes like Spellslingers and Espers. That's what Mark's talking about when he says that the DPS ones are pretty easy to sort of get. But then the tank stance is like the balance stance. It has the same 30 or so percent mitigation, 25, 30. And then it also has like an extra 20% deflect. So that means like, the way that deflect works in this game, it's sort of like dodge or parry in other games, where it just straight out the attack didn't hit. And that works for like all telegraphs, for anything. It'll just, except for crowd control, they tried to make it so that crowd control effects can't be deflected. But any damaging effect, like Spellslinger's trying to hit you with an ignite, you deflect it, there's no dot at all, there's no damage that comes out of it. And so what I actually have found, playing, and I've actually played the Stalker quite a lot now, especially in PvP, is that I feel like stance dancing specifically is going to be one of the most important skills for a good Stalker player while they're doing it, because you get so much mitigation just by popping into that tanking stance. And because, like I was saying, it's a very bursty class, you go in, you do your damage, and then you're all right with having a bit of time where you're not actually doing that much damage, or maybe you're trying to run around or just not get hurt that much. Then you just pop into your tank stance for a little bit, you sort of sit there, you deflect damage, you do it until your suit power comes back up. Because, and I don't know if this is like, maybe I'm just missing it, but for the Warrior, Engineer, and Stalker, those are the three tank classes. They're the ones that have stances. The Warrior and the Engineer have pretty harsh penalties for stance dancing. Like, both of them, you lose all of your resource if you switch stances. Stalker has nothing. That no penalty at all. And so what I found is that I'm constantly changing stances, and I feel like I'm getting a lot more out of my Stalker, especially because there's no global cooldown. There's no okay, I had to waste time to switch stances. I just I push the button, and then I get my guaranteed crit from stealth, and then I just immediately go back into another stance so that I keep taking damage.
Sounds like that's how they want you to play the class.
Yeah, I think so, because, there's no penalty on it. It's off the global cooldown. You're just do a lot better if you're actually switching stances. And I feel like, in that case, the most deadly Stalkers will be the ones who are DPS spec'd, but then still take advantage of that tanking stuff whenever they aren't bursting. So you'd want to be in your DPS stance for that little bit of time that you're bursting, and then the rest of the time you're going to be either in your balance stance or in your tank stance, and sort of just switching back and forth like that.
And one thing that kind of supports your being able to do that is a lot of times in most MMOs when you have stances, normally they're like, well, you can't do it while you're in combat. Well, normally when you're in PvP, you're in combat the whole time. and maybe Farhan, you can help me with this, but it seems like their definition of combat is only when you're actually fighting a tune, some other player or mob. But as soon as you've broken contact, let's say I go back into stealth, or I've just run away physically out of that person's range, then it seems like it frees you up to be able to change your stance again. Whereas in a lot of games, you're just kind of stuck until the match is over. Does that make any sense?
Yeah, I haven't timed it myself to see exactly how long it takes. In PvE content, like when you're playing against mobs, as long as you're on a enemy's threat table, like if they have seen you and you haven't like leashed them by running away far enough, you're in combat that whole time. In PvP, it's very similar to I believe it's more similar to World of Warcraft than to say Star Wars. Star Wars, it was like a distance thing. You had to run away far enough from the enemy before you would drop combat. But if you just stood like 5 meters away and you both just sort of stared at each other, you would both stay in combat the whole time. Whereas in World of Warcraft, it's a timer thing. So the amount of time between the last time that you were either hit or hitting the enemy. And I think it's WildStar is closer to that. I haven't timed it myself, but it does seem actually like a decent amount of time that you actually have to not be hit before you can drop out of combat. Dropping out of combat is amazing for the Stalker, by the way, because stealth's cooldown, like it has a 20-second in combat cooldown, like when you use it. But if you ever get out of combat, it immediately is off cooldown. And that makes PvE like questing a lot more smooth, obviously, because you kill the mob, your stealth cooldown is gone, and then you can keep moving on. But in PvP, it's actually pretty cool because then you're like, okay, I just need to not get hit for a little bit, and then you know that you'll have your stealth ready if you can break combat.
One thing I'm not sure they'll be showing on the next live stream, I'm guessing not, is jump dodging. Have you guys partaken in the jump dodging?
Oh, I've been abusing the hell out of this.
I can't do it. I have been trying because I saw it in PvP. Farhan and I were PvPing 2 or 3 days ago, and I saw it for the first time. I'd heard about it, and I was like, "This guy's hacking." I was so mad because he came in and pwned me, and then and then he was like on his way out, and so I mean, people came to back me up just before I got owned, so he got out of dodge, and he was just. I mean, he was moving so fast. I was like, "Farhan, this is a hack!" And it was live streaming. I was getting mad.
I mean, it's like 3 times the distance of a normal dodge, and it only uses up 1 energy.
How do you do it? I know you told me how to do it, but I can't.
The timing is really tricky. It's unless you have like a lot of I've been practicing it for quite a while, and I think people have been sort of talking about it, like in game, just a lot of the more active PvPers in the beta have been talking about this for like months now, and I wasn't able to actually get it consistently until about like a week and a half ago, because I was almost convinced that it doesn't work consistently. Maybe it's because of the character model or whatever. But then, I realized that apparently on my keyboard, my spacebar doesn't trigger until it's a little bit lower on the thing than the button that I was using for dodge. So I was just always, because you have to push them pretty much exactly at the right time, at the same time. And what it'll do is it'll trigger your dodge animation, but usually when you're doing the dodge animation, you can't jump, because it just suppresses the jump button while you're doing it. But if you do it at just the same time, then you'll jump and dodge at the same time, and then you can double jump into it. So that's why it looks so far in that video or in other videos. I know that Cyback put out a video where he was showing it off. It's the double jump that really makes it sort of crazy. When you just do it a single time, it's actually not that much further than the regular dodge. But it's when you put in that double jump that it becomes pretty crazy. Because do
you think it's a bug? Is it intentional? It's basically a blink ability?
Exploit. I think it's an exploit.
Mark doesn't like it because he's not able to do it. Once he gets it,
when I'm able to come out of stealth, own you, and then get out of dodge before your friends can come back you up, then I'm going to be all for it. But until then, it's an exploit.
Mar, you think it's going to get pulled out of the game before launch?
I think it will, unless other. Well, that's the only class I've seen that can do it. Is the Stalker? Can
every single class, every single race can do it.
if everybody can do it, then it's going to just become part of the game. But like I said, the only people I've seen do it were the stealthers, and maybe that's just because I don't know why, but
it is really, really powerful. Like I was.
Until Mark Taylor can do it, that shit is a friggin' exploit, and I want it fixed. But as soon as like I can do it, then it needs to be part of the game.
It is like really powerful, and I've been sort of waffling on my thoughts on this because I sort of went from okay, well, it sounds cool to then I was finally able to do it, and I was like, yeah, okay, this is a little bit of an improvement because I was trying it out a lot, especially in PvP, and I felt like okay, in PvP it is useful and pretty handy, but where I feel like it starts to get sort of overpowered is in PvE actually, because most of these telegraphs that the mobs are doing are actually balanced around, you know, getting out with a single dodge, right? Like the distance that you move with a single dash or something. And when you do this double jump dash thing, you just get crazily out of there, out of range of it. And the other thing is that this is something that I actually really liked about WildStar's movement is that because so much of it is tied into the physics engine, it becomes quite interesting, especially like when you're going uphill versus downhill, that kind of battle stuff. But what happens when you dash is that dash actually like, sort of suppresses the physics engine a little bit in terms of like friction. Like pretty much, if you were like a really easy example is that when you're trying to climb a hill, like if you're just exploring or something, a lot of the time if you can't quite make it over the hill, if you just sort of mash your dash button and you can sort of roll up the hill because it suppresses the friction, you can sort of get up there a little bit easier. When you're using jump dash to do that, you just sort of just fly up hills that you normally aren't able to go up very easily. And I mean, I love it when I'm playing it, but then it seems really, really overpowered, especially because I was questing and on my engineer. And the engineer normally is this class that when you're fighting in a mobile way, it slows you down, right? Because you have the self snare. As whenever you attack, whenever you're channeling any ability on the engineer, you're snaring yourself. But then if you have this jump dodge thing, especially if you double jump into it and you get far, it just is so mobile that I felt completely overpowered. I was just like completely... It took my engineer play in PvE questing from, okay, this is pretty good, but it's like sort of slow, methodical, not really as powerful, to, my god, I'm destroying everything because I will never get hurt by a telegraph. I will never get, demolished. And so I don't really know what they're going to do. I'm really torn because I like it, and I feel like a really easy fix to make it not, like one of the main things against it is that it's almost mandatory to macro it. Because if you macro it on like a macro mouse or whatever, you can do it consistently every single time without fail. But if you don't, then obviously not everyone has those kind of things. Not everyone even wants to do those kind of things. A very easy fix to make it so you don't need a macro is just to make it so that you can push the jump button at any point during the dodge animation. Then even someone with bad timing can just push dodge and then jump and just do it consistently every single time.
What if they have bad posture?
Well, my bad posture character was able to do it just fine, but and it's not like it's something that even is like really tricky. You can even do it like if you have good enough timing with the double tap to dodge kind of thing. It's a little bit harder with that timing, but you can do it. But the thing is that are they going to really bother to go back and rebalance PvE and the classes and all this other stuff around this mechanic? And I'm sort of doubtful. So I really like it. I think it makes the game a lot more fun. It's a lot more mobile. You have this movement that is just amazing and it feels so powerful. But I can't imagine them leaving it in because it just throws off the balance on so much other stuff.
If everybody in every class can do it, then there's no reason for them to take it out because every class can do it. So no one's being left out. What it is, and maybe this is a reason why they might leave it in, is remember they are building stuff for the 5%ers or the 1%ers. They're building mechanics and they're building raids and game content for people that are more elite, that are better gamers, that are clearly have better manual dexterity than I have that can do this. This is analogous to playing not Doom, but Team Fortress Classic, where the guy who's got the bazooka can shoot it at the ground and shoot himself over places. Never been able to do that shit. Or that guy who's got the special cannon in Unreal who can, you know, jump and shoot the ground and fly over a wall and kick your ass. Never been able to do that shit. So, you know, the point is there's certain skill moves that I've just never been able to do just because I can't figure it out the timing. I just can't do it. But the thing is it's there. It's open to me, and should I develop the skill set or practice enough, then I too will be part of that elite group that gets to use it. So I guess from that standpoint, I don't mind that it's there, because if I practice and I put the time in, then I will be able to do it too. You know, so that's like a reward for a well-disciplined or just a good player. And I can't hate on that, you know?
I guess my concern more is that, you know, just, like I agree, I think it's nice that it's a skill-based thing, but I feel like it just completely, you know, outclasses the regular dodge. I cannot think of a single time I would rather have the normal dash than the air jumping dash, because the air jumping dash, it sends you farther. It gives you the option of doubling the distance with a double jump. You can actually air dodge one direction and then double jump into a different direction. Like, so you can like turn mid dodge by using this thing. Like, there's so many things that just make it outclass the regular dash that I feel like unless they just go ahead and replace the regular dash, like just make it so that every time you push dash, you do a jump dash. Just because it's better and people are gonna macro it. You know, I'm already macroing it just because I want it to be consistent. It doesn't make much sense to me that, you know, why you would bother, why they would leave it in unless they just made that the baseline, because it just completely outclasses the other one.
But it is baseline if it's open to everybody.
But I mean, like why? So like I have my dodge on Q. Why would I ever just push Q instead of Q in space? Is my point. Is that like because it's just worse?
Because there's obstacles in the game, sort of like jump puzzles, where you want to position yourself 2 feet from where you are now versus 10 feet, right? So you're not going to always want to jump 10 feet, because then 10 feet might be too far from where you're trying to get to, right? Just like if you're trying to...
Yeah, but the thing is that you have that... Because you can double jump backwards, like you have way more control over how much distance you go. And then you could just push sprint, and then you get a little bit of air control. Like it works. The reason why it feels so good is because it works so well with the rest of the controls of the game, because of the way that, you know, they have like and try this in the ship hand or where you have reduced gravity, and suddenly it becomes insane over there, because then you're just like shooting yourself really far. So I don't know. It just seems way too powerful.
It's gonna be interesting to see if they leave it in. I'm really curious to see. Maybe they'll speak up about this. I'd like to know if it's supposed to be in there and it was there on design, or if it's just something that people have figured out. But who knows? We'll see. I want to talk about the NDA stuff that Carbine is still working on. But first, I want to tell you guys about a great deal we got going on with Audible.com. I want to hook you guys up with a free 30-day trial and a free audiobook. All you have to do is go over to audible.com/Gamebreaker, use that URL, sign up, and download the app on your iOS or your Android device, and you will be able to download a free book and use the service, like I said, absolutely free for 30 days. And if you enjoy this service, you can become a subscriber. I've been a subscriber for many, many years. I found a really great collection. There's all these collections on Audible as well. So the H.G. Wells Science Fiction Collection, over 20 hours. It's got The Invisible Man, The Time Machine, War of the Worlds, one of my favorites, and The Island of Dr. Moreau. So awesome, awesome collection there. You should go check it out. Just one of the many offerings that you could choose as your free audio book. Head on over today, audible.com/Gamebreaker. So Carbine are still trying to figure out apparently what else they can drop the NDA on, which I gotta say, first up, they've been pretty generous compared to most other MMOs, as far as like letting their guard down this early and letting people live stream and talk about 1 to 15 and all this stuff. Jeremy Gaffney said on Reddit that they'll still want they'll still want to have new info to hype before a launch, so they want to hold something back, and they really don't want to show off more things that they actually know need work, which of course there's still stuff that needs work. Some of those things they talked about, include trade skills, capital cities, lots of UI tuning that'll be coming, class tuning, And I think they mentioned some of the group play at lower levels was another thing as well. So as you said last week, Farhan, UI for questing in particular could be so much better, right?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, like a lot of the UI stuff that I've been talking about with questing also has to do with like quest flow and just messaging because of the way that some of the systems are. Like you don't want to do quests that are lower level than you. You want to be encouraged to do quests that are at your level, and so they need to have a UI that points you in the right direction, like to those quests that are actually worth doing. Versus doing other ones, and also just messaging which quests actually have meaningful story, like the episode quest versus the task quest. So a lot of that definitely can get some work. I know that a lot of add-ons are already just like in the works, and people are improving all that those kinds of systems on their own. But Carbine definitely needs to do a decent amount of just baseline, and I think that they are working on that.
Mark, you think like the whole UI in general needs a lot of work?
Needs a ton of work. Right now, the UI at face value is completely functional, but the problem is it's so bulky and blocky. I mean, it essentially takes up like a pyramid of the bottom part of your screen. I mean, it's everywhere. I like it where I can scale it out, add more buttons, but then make the boxes much smaller. So I don't think in and of itself it's ugly. I just think that it needs to be scalable, and right now it's not scalable. It's just one fixed size, right? The other thing I think I would add to it is some parts of it need to be able to be separated so that you can move them to different parts. So whatever the resource of your class, that seems to be not movable, or I have not been able to get it to move off of my bar to somewhere else on the screen. So again, it just takes up space. The other part is for like engineer, a lot of the buttons don't seem to really work for your bots, your minions, right? So if I click on a button to try to say, you droid, whatever, go attack that mob, at least for me, at least for my account, it just doesn't work. And I don't know if that's a bug or if I don't know if that's just something that's part of the UI that's not working. But that's just an example of just things that need to be fixed. And they even said, yeah, we know that we're looking at it, blah, blah, blah. That is a great opportunity for UI developers. That's a great opportunity for modders. Because people that they have on staff, I'm sure probably are doing some good stuff, but they're never going to be able to come up with all the different permutations that the modding community both enjoys and could probably just put in something that maybe they hadn't thought of. So that's probably one of my biggest complaints about the game. It's not the gameplay, it's just the UI. It just really needs some love.
What about class balance so far for a beta? I mean, you guys both seem pretty happy for the most part.
Yeah, I mean, no matter what I play, and I always use PvP as the governor for what's fair and balanced, because when it's PvE, you're like playing a single player game, for lack of a better word, because you are the king of your domain, so you should be able to beat a mob eventually, as long as it's not 10 levels higher than you. But in PvP, relative to whatever class I'm playing, I come in relative to the way I play PvP. Some people, like Farhan or Zyback or Blank Space or some of those guys, they go out and they're just going to rack up kills. And it's not like they're not strategic, but they play a certain way to try to kill a lot of players, which is cool, and that is fun. I tend to play more team-oriented and try to figure out what is the effort of this map. And so I usually do defense, or I go and I disrupt. And no matter which class I play, I'm usually within the same number of kills. And you can ask Farhan, because we PvP together a lot, regardless of the class that I play. So to me, that tells me that it's pretty balanced. Additionally, I have not felt completely like I got my shorts pulled down when I go one-on-one with any particular class. Like in other games, like whatever, X, Y, or Z class, you knew that when you go one-on-one, you're getting owned. It was like a losing proposition. And then when I played that class, I was owning people. Relative to, the skill level, I just don't feel that. I feel like I can handle myself. Obviously, you're going to come up with players that are just better than you. They can kick the crap out of you. But other than those few instances, I just don't feel like I felt in many MMOs where I just felt like I am disarmed. My class is not as good as this other one. I feel really good. I feel really positive, and this is the first MMO that I can say that about. The only time I think I've been frustrated was really nothing to do with the gameplay. It's when my team sucked and I'm getting 5v1'd or 3v1'd. In those cases,
you're
supposed to lose.
You're supposed to. Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
There is supposed to be a winner and a loser. So
yeah. So I got to be honest. I mean, I feel really good about where they are in their balance because I just can't see any class that's just really head and shoulders dominating anybody.
What about the group play at low levels? What do you think about that? What are they talking about there? Do you guys feel that really needs some love?
I think they need, and Farhan can follow up on this, but I really think they need to figure out what they're going to do with their group questing rather. So for example, like I have this mission, Farhan has this mission. We both, like, one of us gets the widget, and now we both get credit. That seems to be on a quest by quest basis right now, so that's kind of annoying, to be quite frank. But other than that, everything else seems to be really fun. The more players you have, the more fun it is because then you can steamroll stuff, right, Farhan?
Yeah, I definitely like doing questing in a group if you can. You know, it basically lets you do some of the quests that are a little bit higher level than you, and there are some mechanics in there that sort of so like the way that the quest progression works, generally speaking, is because it has a little percentage and it's based on how much experience that the mom gave you. If you're doing quests that are a little bit higher than your level, usually you can complete the quest a little bit faster. And so as long as you're in like a coordinated enough group where everyone is sort of tagging each mob, that is something that seems a little bit weird. That and then, you know, there's been times where I'm like playing with my wife or something, she just doesn't hit one of the mobs, she just doesn't get credit for it, and so she ends up falling behind a little bit. But besides that, generally speaking, it seems like you have an ability to quest pretty consistently in a nice speed if you know what you're doing. Like you're not going and doing like the older quests or whatever. At that point, it actually feels really, really grindy, because if you're doing quests that are a little bit lower level than you, then the progression is a little bit slower. You're also fighting with your allies, especially if it's one of those quests where it's the progress isn't shared for whatever reason. Like, let's say you had to pick up something or you had to destroy something or whatever, and for whatever reason the quest progress isn't shared, then it starts to feel really grindy and you don't really get much experience. But as long as you know, okay, I should go to the higher level area, I should go ahead and pick up a little bit harder quest or whatever, and then go do those, then it feels pretty good. I will say that, like, I feel like they could use a little bit of help with the challenge system, just to make it a little bit more group conducive, because I find it very difficult to coordinate doing challenges in a group. A lot of times we end up slightly off from one another in progression. Like, oh, did you get to this level yet? Oh, I still need a little bit more of that. Did you even get the challenge to start yet? And it's actually somewhat important to actually have people start the challenge at the same time, because it's like, you know, can you meet this objective within this amount of time? And, you know, if you're trying to get kills really quickly and I finish a little bit ahead of you because I started mine a little bit ahead of you, then I'm not 100% like in the, you know, message that, okay, I need to help you continue to kill these mobs really quickly because there's that timer running down and you want to get like the nice reward. And so like there's like some things like that I feel like they need to approach with and do a few balanced passes or something just to make it a little bit easier when you're grouping. But besides that, I think it's pretty solid, yeah.
Something I've been seeing is quite a bit of feedback about the character models and their faces. What do you guys think about this whole thing, man? How do you feel about it? I don't know. I'm totally fine with it. What's everybody up in arms about? I mean, they definitely have some interesting proportions, but it's such a super stylized look.
I don't know. I mean, in any MMO, to be completely honest, unless you're role-playing or you're in first-person view, everyone looks the same anyway. There are very few MMOs where I can look and see, you've really customized your nose. I mean, because you're looking at the back of the head of whatever tune you're on, and most MMO players, again, I'm not trying to slight the RPers, but other than that, you're usually so panned out. If you're like raiding or PvPing, you're not really up in there so that you can see that. So I think that's really the RPers who are complaining about that, to be quite frank.
I think, well, a lot of the, you know, comments that have come out about the character models and specifically with the faces is that there is a fairly limited number of faces that you have per race or whatever. Maybe you'll have, I think, like 7 to 9 is the number, but then a lot of them don't really seem viable. Like, they don't really look that good. And so like who is ever going to pick this face is sort of like the comment that I've seen a lot. I think that if you actually go into the sliders, you can a lot of the uglier faces you actually can tweak to a point where it looks passable. I don't know if anyone's still gonna pick it because I still don't think it looks quite as good as some of the other ones. But you still can do some of that stuff.
The only thing maybe I would complain about is the hairstyles. Like the hairstyles are really unimpressive, to be quite frank. There's like maybe 2 hairstyles per race that look good to me. So I don't know. That's the only thing. The other thing is maybe the character model itself. So everybody's the exact same height relative. Everyone's got the same build. And so maybe they'll adjust that so you can be fatter or skinnier. Maybe that'll add to it. But other than that, like, you know, the face, nobody's ever going to look at your face unless you're an RPer, you know.
Don't diss the RPers, man.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to diss them. I'm just trying to say that's the only group that's looking. I'm like hardcore raiders, hardcore PvPers. Let's be honest, the hardcore PvPers are trying to find the smallest character model possible. Done. You know?
Hardcore PvPers want to look at your face on the ground. That's about all they want to be looking at.
Yeah,
so.
you know. And one thing I will say though is, you know, even like the Chua or the Arn, like whatever the little diminutive races are, they say that they have the same hitbox as like the Makari, the 9 feet people. I don't know if that's really true. I know that the statisticians and, you know, the PhDs that are working on the math say that it's so, but and maybe it's a psychological thing. But when you're PvPing against a really teeny small stalker or whatever, and especially if they start, you know, trying to, you know, spin around you, it's hard to target them. So I guess what I mean by that is if the hitbox is the same, yet you're still trying to target the toon, shouldn't you come out of tolerance of being able to have your telegraph actually be on that toon? That would mean that I can be out of tolerance and maybe hit to the right of you and still hit you. And I'm here to tell you that's not the case, because many a time I've shot an RN or a Chua, like where he's here, and because of the hitbox, I'm shooting like right here because he's moving around so fast or she's moving around so fast, and I see no damage tick. The only time I see damage tick is when my telegraph has him dead to rights. And so I guess that is non-scientific proof that the hitbox discussion is not necessarily, you know, accurate. Does that make any sense?
I mean, there are some like interesting bugs and things that are going on. Like for one thing, the Stalker actually is almost crippled in PvP by this. There's this bug where so every melee telegraph, the instant ones even, has a little animation that plays like whenever you see a telegraph, you see the little like slowly filling telegraph that shows, okay, when did the telegraph finish or whatever, and unlinked to that is actually when the damage will happen. You know, in some abilities, even if you see the telegraph still filling, the damage has already happened earlier within like the cast time of that telegraph. Now, the reason why this is important for the Stalker is because for the Stalker to actually deal damage, at least right now, it's a bug, obviously, is that because only for the Stalker, you know, you actually have to have your target within the telegraph shape for the entire duration of it. Like, in a strike, if they move out or if you move into them afterward, then it just doesn't work. Like, you know, and a good example is quick slash. You're slashing 3 times, and so you'd expect that as long as the target is within your slashing, your telegraph for however many slashes, they'll get hit by them. But if you're just out of range and you start doing quick slash and then you walk into range, then all 3 slashes will just miss. Or if you start doing quick slash and then they walk out, then all of them will miss, just because of the telegraph thing. And I mean, that's a bug. They'll hopefully fix that soon. There's also a latency thing. Like, I know that some of the people that I know that are playing from Europe have this problem where they need to aim their telegraph far ahead of where the enemy will be for it to actually hit them consistently. Like I've seen people who are playing a Stalker, and they are actually on their screen. They are running ahead, like they are in front of their target that they're chasing, and doing their attacks, and that's the only way that they can actually manage to land them. So like latency is a big thing for landing telegraphs. But I actually think that My experience with having pretty low latency and pretty consistent results, I feel like on most classes, I actually don't feel anything at all for like small targets versus big targets.
I want to talk a little bit about this David Bass post about what they're going to be talking about for the upcoming months of leading up to launch. Really quick, I want to let you guys know we have a new show that just launched yesterday right here on Gamebreaker, and it's called This Week in Steam. It's with Kat Andresco. Check it out. It's on Gamebreaker.tv. Go over. It's called This Week in Steam with Kat Andresco. She goes over the latest and greatest upcoming Steam games each and every week. This week, I think she went over the Banner Saga, which came out, I believe, maybe today. Europa Universalis, Assassin's Creed Liberation, and Nidhogg, which if you guys haven't checked out, looks awesome as well. So go check it out each and every week. Right here on Gamebreaker TV, brand new show This Week in Steam. So David Bass, he was all over the Reddits talking about what Carbine and the team are going to cover for the next few months. Customization, adventures, battlegrounds, arenas, raids, war plots, trade skills, guilds, all the stuff he's mentioned, including some kind of redacted customization. But I don't know. Do you guys have any insight into what that really was?
The redacted customization. My first thought had been, because it was right after housing in the list, was that maybe they're talking about war plots and they're just being silly. But then he lists war plots again later in the bullets, so now I'm not sure what he would be talking about.
I definitely want to. What are we expecting on mount customization?
I think putting skulls on them. I think painting. I think colors, stuff like that. I mean, they seem like the kind of developers that would allow you to have that kind of stuff in there. I mean, heck, SWG, going back there, gave you customization from a color perspective on mounts. So I think that would be like the low-hanging fruit, but I think that they're going to maybe even give it to something where you could actually have fuzzy dice, or they would put goofy, funny
just
stuff.
Goofy, fun stuff to kind of give it more flavor. Yeah. They're also going to be talking about the usual character customization and also housing. Have we actually talked much about housing customization? Because you get that before level 15, right?
What is it, 12 now or 14?
12?
I think it's at 13 or 14 that you would be able to get to your house.
Yeah, so we're going to get to hear a little bit more about that as well.
Yeah, we haven't actually talked about it a lot ourselves. I know that on the latest stream where I was actually driving the stream, I was showing off Architect crafting a little bit and actually placing some of the stuff and showing some of the things. I'm really bad at housing decoration stuff, so I'm not really the best person to show, oh, look at the cool stuff that you can customize. But I did make a little hoverboard track by just placing walls outside of my house at weird angles and sort of having it float in the air. So that's about the extent that we've shown off. I know that Weeknight Dominion's Nixus has a lot of really nice housing videos, so if anyone wants to look at those, then...
What are you guys most interested in hearing them cover over the next few months leading up to launch?
I want to see some, either, if not in-game, because clearly everyone wants to see the raids and they want to see the war plots, right? That's why you level. You level to get to end game, and then once you get to end game, now your adventure begins, shall we say? And that's the tune, or that you're going to basically be playing with and having your guild experience, your experience that you played this game for years with, right? And other than any alts that you make. So I think that's what they want to see. But if they're not going to get that, if we're not going to get that, which I really doubt we're going to get that until before PAX East, right, which is coming up in a couple of months. I think that maybe show us some more of the different adventures and dungeons and stuff as we progress. Now, do they have to show us every single thing? No, but they just have to show us maybe the highlights. Tell us what we can look forward to. Things like that. That's what I'm really kind of looking forward to, right?
I want to say war plots. Give us some war plots information. That is the thing I want to know the most about now. Just give it. Come on, Carbine, please.
Just give it.
Give it. War plots.
Break yourself, fool.
Yeah, it's gonna be. Do you think there'll be any curveballs? Do you think they'll throw anything way out of left field that nobody was expecting leading up to launch? I think they've been pretty bad at keeping secrets so far, so they're not very good at that. Do you think they've got something up their sleeve though?
No.
No. Nope. It'll just...
I think, the fact that they've actually kept such a good lid on war plots up to this point is one of the most exciting things for me, just because it means that, what is it up with it? This is the one thing that they haven't actually leaked very much on. It's intriguing to me, and I want to know more. Please show it off.
Show it off. Probably gonna be PAX. I'm gonna guess PAX. We're gonna see a lot of that stuff probably at PAX.
Are you guys going to PAX East, by the way?
I don't know yet, sir. Possibly, maybe. I don't know. We'll see.
I mean, I'm gonna be there, so that's the reason I was asking.
It's possible. You never know. Hopefully, I will have more to say about that soon. We'll see. Maybe I will.
Got
Maybe
it.
I will. Mark Taylor, follow him on Twitter at GuildUmbra, GUILDUMBRA, and right here, of course, every week on UDSP, Mondays at 3. And of course, keep an eye out for the live stream. It just goes live periodically on Gamebreaker. With Mark and Farhan.
We might do one later tonight.
There you go. See, I don't even know when. They just jump on. Do it. Do it, do it, do it. Farhan Siddiqui, follow him on Twitter at Unindel, UNINDEL. Right here. Always a pleasure, gentlemen. You can follow me at Gamebreaker TV or Gary Gannon. Actually, you can follow me at Gary Gannon, but follow Gamebreaker TV as well. Facebook.com/Gamebreaker TV is the Facebook page you can follow us at. And don't forget to check out the brand new show. I'm not Farhan Siddiqui, by the way. No, not him. Go check out the new show this week in Steam. We'll see you next week. Have a great week. Thanks for watching. You guys are the best.
Peace out.